how to use GPT as a middleware. If this is something that you would like to learn, then this video is for you. Okay, so this video is basically a continuation from my WooCommerce integration video. If you remember, in the previous video, we connected to a WooCommerce website and we created the trigger where the bot is going to trigger each time that we have, oh, it's not here, but it's going to trigger each time that we have an order, and it's going to write that data into a Google Sheet. What was the problem? The problem was that we had some special fields that were not visible by the trigger. So we're going to use GPT to solve that issue today. Let me just show you what is the problem. So currently, if we go to Postman and if we send a request for the order that we want to extract the data, we can see that the information is there, but our information about additional packaging is somewhere hidden in the JSON response. This is additional field, and yeah, this is really complicated to extract. It's not visible in the trigger of the API, so we're going to use an email to extract the data and transform that data using GPT. So what is different from the previous time? The trigger is going to be different. We are going to use Microsoft Outlook 365 trigger, and that is going to send us an ID of an email that we received. Later on, the bot is going to extract the data from the body of the email, prepare that body for GPT, send it to GPT model, and extract the information one by one, transforming that information back to a JSON and back to our Google Sheet with all necessary information. So in here, I have two samples of emails that I have created for myself. So one of them has an additional packaging and one of them doesn't, but it has multiple rows. So it has a Harry Potter one and Elder one, so it has multiple rows. Now I want to show you how this works. Additionally, I will teach you also how to properly use the triggers. So right now we're not going to use specific triggers, but I'm going to show you regardless. So if we create a connection, and then if we go to add triggers, we can select connection, for example, Microsoft 365, and we can select to trigger based on certain events, or for example, when an email is received, right? Not email, not mailbox, and we can add conditions and we can select what do we want, right? So we are going to create a trigger that is going to trigger based on my new email in my folder Leviosa Shop. So that's that. But I want to turn your attention to one thing, and that is the ID of the email that is being passed through the event trigger. So if we go back to the integration service guide on triggers, we can notice that there are several fields that are populated automatically with information about the trigger, whatever the trigger is. So in this case, we have our UiPath event object ID. And if we're using emails, this is the information that we need to extract a certain email from our mailbox. So once we create an automation, we are going to create that argument. And this is a little bit unintuitive because it disappears. So for example, if we create an argument, you can see that it already exists. And that is because I created it. So if we use that information, and for example, if we use that in this, you can see that this exists, right? So we can get our email using the event ID, and that will be the specific email that the bot was triggered on. So keep that in mind. It is a little bit unintuitive. I see people online doing it differently. They are like getting the bot triggered and they're getting all the emails and they're doing the filtering again. There is no need. So we can use the event object ID to get the specific email that we want. For now, we're going to comment out this because we're not going to showcase how trigger works, but we're going to showcase the whole implementation. So this is just simulation. So you can basically see that I created a connection with my Outlook application. Then I have selected the Leviosa Shop folder and I have add additional filter. And the bot is just going to search for the order with the ID number that I gave him. So for first one, we're going to use this one. so 92. This is what we are going to use. Later on, we're extracting the body of the email, then we're building the table. So if you take a look, so I have created one Google Sheet table, and if we take a look, this is exactly how the Google Sheet table looks. We're getting the access token from our orchestrator. Then we are reading the system prompt, which is really important. We are giving the user prompt the body of the email, so the whole body, and then we're calling the GPT-4 model. After that, we are transforming that object to a JSON response. We're selecting the choices, so the response from the model that was generated. We're using deserialized JSON to get back that information. And then we are extracting that information back to a data table. We then read the whole Google Sheet and add the row to the last index. So one important thing and one tip for you is to use the newest web API activities because they have a JSON sample. So if you provide a JSON sample, then you can create an object and basically you can use IntelliSense to map out that object. So if we go in here, you can see that I have my JSON payload, which is the for each element of this loop, right? And I can basically go customer name to string. So customer name to string. And basically that is the same thing. And I'll show you the system prompt. That is basically, I just gave him the same sample that I want GPT to generate for me. I gave him the same sample. So I gave this JSON object. I put it in the deserialized object. I used the Control K to generate me a JSON payload. And then you can see that the JSON payload was created. And it's a specialized, let's call it like that, specialized variable. So if we want some data from that, we can just use JSON payload, right? And then we can just go through that data. So you can see that we have customers, we have items. So we can go items, maybe the first item, and then we can select all the information, additional item, packages, price, quantity. So this really comes in handy. I always use it when I use JSON objects because it helps me just to get to my correct data. Okay, so now that you know how our implementation looks, let's take a look at our system prompt. So my system prompt is I'm giving you an email information about the orders, and then I'm basically telling the bot, the GPT model, to extract the information, right? So step 3, respond in a JSON format. I'm giving him the format, and that's basically it. Okay, so let's run the bot and see how the bot is going to generate the data. Sorry, had to pause. Okay, now let's run the bot and let's see how the bot is going to generate the data. So I'm basically simulating how the trigger is going to work. I'm just going to comment out the get email list and put in the get email by ID. And then I'm going to schedule the bot to work based on a trigger. And this is a background automation, so that is really cool. We can use the serverless machines to run this automation. Okay, I think that the bot worked. You can see that this is basically the whole thing, the whole email that was extracted, and we need to extract these information, right? This is the orders and everything. So you can see that the bot extracted the information, right? Let me just find it if we have somewhere the response. We didn't log the full response, that's fine. But if we take a look at our Google Sheet, we can see that it extracted. And it created each row, so this is how I wanted it. I just need to fix the total, maybe to be like a price per item. But you can see that it written the order ID, and I know, okay, so for this order ID, I have 2 items, right? I have one that is Harry Potter one, second that is Dumbledore's wand, and I don't have any additional packages. And that is correct, that is right. So now let's see how the bot works with the other one. So we have additional packages, right? We have the packaging, and let's see how the bot works. And I want to show you one thing. I don't know why it doesn't show up in here, but I had a log with full JSON response, and I want to show you how the bot looks once the GPT responds, right? So I guess this would be the answer, right? I want to show you exactly how that looks so that you have a feeling how GPT can transform your data. So I could have written some regex expressions, right? It is a little bit like structured. But if I have multiple orders, if I have some complicated orders, I wouldn't able to do that. So it was much easier for me to create just one system prompt that is going to extract data rather than creating a complicated like business logic behind it. Okay, so now we have changed the order that has additional data, and we're going to run the bot again. And hopefully the bot is going to extract the data, and at the bottom of our Google Sheet, it is going to extract all the necessary information with the additional package. Of course, you can modify this for data to look however you want to. So for example, you can extract first name and last name. You can extract maybe some additional information or stuff like that. However you want to transform your data, you can do that. This is just a sample showcase how you can use GPT to transform your data. So you can see that this is basically, so we had this email, something similar to this, not this actually. So we had this email, right? And then the GPT transformed that data to a structured data. So look how this looks really nice. And we have this additional packaging, right? We have not additional is Stalag, packaging is something else that isn't here, right? So we have that data now in our Google Sheet. And in that way, we have surpassed the problem basically that we had with WooCommerce integration. So really hope that this helps. If you have similar thing or some issues, feel free to reach out. I'm available on my LinkedIn. So yeah, keep on automating.